I'm Alan Flurry. As a writer for the Franklin College of Arts and Sciences, I get to meet a variety of interesting people who come to our campus. Today on Unscripted, we're visiting with writer and filmmaker Sterlin Harjo. Sterlin Harjo belongs to the Seminole and Creek Nations and is a native of Holdenville, Oklahoma. He studied painting at the University of Oklahoma before writing his first feature film script, 4 Sheets to the Wind. In 2004, Sundance selected Harjo to receive an Annenberg Fellowship, and he completed development of the film under the guidance of industry veterans such as Robert Redford and Stanley Tucci. Sterlin's project was one of 12 chosen from a pool of almost 2,500 based on the uniqueness of his voice and the promise of the film to offer something poignant to American cinema. His second feature film, Barking Water, premiered at the 2009 Sundance Film Festival and has been featured at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. Harjo was visiting the University of Georgia at the invitation of the Institute of Native American Studies. We dropped by a record store in downtown Athens and ended up on stage at the Fine Arts Theater.
Any story that I write usually takes place in Oklahoma. If I was adapting a story, I could easily make a film outside of Oklahoma, but it's really difficult for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the way your films have been received, you probably get a lot of encouragement to keep making these investigations in that area and of your culture.
Yeah, I think it's just because people don't know about it, and it's like, it automatically, I think a writer's job, part of a writer's job is to create a world that's unique, and so that automatically sort of gives me a leg up in that area. It's like, it's all of a sudden this world that not anyone knows, you know, and you can explore with the film. I understand that the work is kind of important in documenting, and especially making these documentaries in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I've realized that archiving is kind of an important thing, you know, and it's like, I can tell stories about a specific type of people in, you know, in Oklahoma, and no one else is doing that, you know, I mean, no one else is making films about that, so it's kind of, you know, I mean, the people that I'm making the films about are very proud of that, and I'm, you know, I'm pretty proud of it too.
Verses, a verse.
My YouTube name is Kasi. They call me Kasi. And that's about all.
Say it. Go-chi-ha.
Go-chi-ha. Sure. This is
Close, home.
close.
Okay.
I mean, none of my films are really political or anything. They're just stories. So I never really intended on being this Native American filmmaker, you know? And it was really weird for me at first. And I kind of didn't like it at first. But then once I met other filmmakers that are doing it, Native filmmakers and indigenous filmmakers from different communities, you know, and I admired their work, I really sort of became okay with it, just because it felt like some sort of movement happening and being among a bunch of talented people and stuff, so.
That's great, actually. One of the things I liked about both those films so much is that I did think of them as just films. I think that Native American cinema, if we're going to call it that, has moved on dramatically from the Milagro-Beanfield War era. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's even moved on from smoke signals, and you know, I mean, I think that the films have been more, over the last 10 years since Smoke Signals, I think some of the best work has come out, and it's been a lot of like regional filmmakers and people making films that are very specific to where they're from and culturally specific, you know, whether it's Taika Waititi and the Maori filmmaker from New Zealand, or if it's, you know, Warwick Thornton, the Aboriginal filmmaker from Australia who made Samson and Delilah, or, you know, Black Horse Low, who made, you know, this really successful short film called Shimasani, Navajo guy. I mean, all of them are making films about where they're from, and they're specific, and they're not pan-Indian, and they're very culturally specific. But they have sort of overarching human themes, you know, that people can relate to. And so I think the most interesting work is really just happening now. So that's, you know, and it's not dictated by the box office, you know. So it's funny because it's like it's almost like the last place where something like this could happen, because it's like the people that are, you know, I feel like where it's almost like being where, you know, French New Wave filmmakers were when they started making, like, you know, Godard made Breathless and all this stuff, and it was like, you know, all these native filmmakers are highly influenced by Hollywood and by independent filmmakers and American cinema and foreign cinema, but now we get to use it and tell our own stories with the equipment, you know, so it's sort of an exciting time, I guess. There's a type of singing that the people in the church do in Barking Water, and also at the funeral in Four Seasons Wind. It's called line singing, and it was like a type of singing that's almost extinct or whatever, and it sort of came from the Scottish Highlands and then the Appalachian Mountains, and then down to Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and then so there's like a couple black churches, a couple churches in the Appalachian Mountains that do it, and then there's Creek Indians in Oklahoma, and it's a specific type of singing that was sort of that migratory like influence sort of happened throughout the Southeast, and I don't know, it's just like it's the Christian Creek Muskogee Christian thing is very they sort of. There's a lot of similarities to the traditional side. They adapted it, you know, and I think it was a lot of had to do with survival, to sort of survive and try to show, I don't know, the government that they were, you know,
Civilized?
Yeah, civilized and conforming.
After you.
Yeah.
So was there a music scene in Tulsa at all?
Yeah, there's a big history of music in Tulsa. There's something called the Tulsa Sound that got pretty popular from the couple artists, Leon Russell and J.J. Cale, and like J.J. Cale basically wrote all of, I mean, like, you know, Eric Clapton covered him a lot and got popular off of like Cocaine, and They Call Me the Breeze was done by Leonard Skinner or something. But
oh, it was, yes.
Yeah, anyway, they had this, so there's this like deep history of like music, and all these guys moved to Tulsa. Like, I think Eric Clapton even moved to Tulsa for a little while to like play music in Tulsa with all these dudes that
Really?
are there. Yeah.
Eric Clapton?
Yeah, and George Harrison was there a lot. And
Really?
yeah, and so anyway, there's a big music scene now too, though.
Is it like Hazel Atkins?
I love Hazel Atkins.
This is not a Hazel Atkins record.
It's not.
But there's a lot of aspects to it that are, you know, complete mystery to anyone who's never been behind the camera or never been on a set. You know, everything it's beyond the script. You've got to have that, you know, the shooting budget, and then you've got to, of course, fund your project. But there are all these other aspects to it that I guess without going through it, you won't learn how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's like, it's basically like you start a corporation and have to hire and feed everyone, and it only lasts for 20 days or whatever, you know.
If it goes well.
If it goes well. But I mean, finding funding's so hard. It's like the worst part of, I think, the movie making process, because there's no creativity involved in that. It's just trying to find money and seeing if someone, I've been really lucky, like people funded my films and basically left me alone to make the film, and then, so that I've been pretty lucky in that sense. But I mean, I love collaborating with other artists and stuff, so I think the filmmaking side of it's really fun, and getting to know, you know, getting to work with like production designers and cameramen and stuff like that is really exciting. So
They're really professionals, and they're the key to a successful project, it seems.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, you really have to just, I think you really have to be careful with who you hire and make sure you get the right people. And not just because they're talented, but because you mesh well, you know, so. It's like starting a family. It's like being in a family with someone, a marriage.
Talking about people you've hired and how important that is to hire the right people is, are a lot of your actors non-actors?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, For She's to Win, about half of the actors were non-actors. Barking Water, I think there were only a couple trained actors. So I just really like working with non-actors because I like trying to get performances out of them. I like how real they are. They can be very real. I also like putting non-actors with actors because they keep each other on each other's toes. Like if you have a non-actor working with an actor, non-actors tend to be more realistic. And so the actor who's used to acting will keep that in check and try to be more realistic with their performance. And then on the flip side of that is the non-actor will see the confidence that the actor has and how they'll just go for it. And then the non-actor will step up their game and just go for it too. So
Yeah.
I really like how they play off each other that way. So
Oh, it's a great thing. You hear that time from time. A director will tell an actor to stop acting.
yeah, I think that can be pretty bad. It's just because you don't want people to see the performance and stuff, and you just try to get to like some real emotion, I guess. You know, it's also, I mean, I make movies about Creek, Seminole people in Oklahoma. It would be ridiculous, I think, if I went and hired a bunch of like really good-looking actors who are model, you know, like all Lakota models, you know, and like brought them down with long hair.
Because there are such things.
Yeah, and like brought them down with their long hair and tall, whatever. You know, it's like there are different regions and different tribes look different, and so I want some of that authenticity to go along with the make-believe world of the film too. So
Sure. I mean, the cultural setting is a big part of both of those films, and so you don't want some looking like someone that looked like they stepped off of a set.
yeah, I mean that's the worst. I think the worst thing for a lot of actors make mistakes of like just worrying about how they look too much, because it just becomes about what they look like, and I just don't look for people like that. Some directors might, but I just look for people that are more willing to go inside of a character and instead of how they look.
Looks like the place. Yeah, I know you don't want to see these guys, but hey, they're buying us lunch. Maybe they've seen your daughter. Could be they've got her number.
Nephews are friggin' idiots.
Do you know what you want to eat?
Yeah, I think so. He'd like the oatmeal.
White or wheat toast?
No toast.
It comes with toast. You gotta have the toast. The boss is kind of a stickler about it.
You can give it to me.
Well, I'll give it to him and you can have it.
I think I'll have this club sandwich on wheat.
Okay?
I want bacon.
Just bacon.
Just a whole mess of bacon. Steak and eggs. White toast. Bacon.
Okay. So that can be it?
Yeah, I think that's all. So it sounds like you guys sure been busy, huh?
Crazy busy. Frankie, my man. Ain't seen you in a while. Can't believe you can't keep it together. Made my auntie leave you. Dang, guy, you don't know a good thing when you got it, do you?
Guess not.
Probably staying up all night, getting drunk, and it.
I mean, I think whenever you cast a non-actor, you have to be willing to let it go where it's gonna go. And you just try to steer it in that direction. Like whenever I have a non-actor in a scene, I never make them learn the lines perfectly, because when you give a non-actor lines to memorize, it just becomes very like stilted, and so you want it to be fresh. And so I will show them the script, they'll see the script, or then I'll show it to them right before or whatever, and then they'll get the meaning of it. I'll be like, okay, now just don't worry about the script, just say it in your own words, Then it comes out real. So
Right.
then I'll just, if I need to direct it any other way, I will. And with that scene, there was a script. It was pretty, it's pretty similar to what there is now, but we rehearsed that scene over and over, and it wasn't really working. And so I just really let them improv. And that's why I hire them, because they're funny in person, not because they're good actors. Right. And so, I just had to get them into the spot where they could be funny and start making fun of each other and cracking jokes. And that's really what we did. So it was a lot of improv in that scene.
This one?
Yeah. Haven't read it yet, though. I love R. Crumb.
Oh, yeah.
Man, California raisins. Those depress me.
The dancing resource?
Yeah, I have weird things that depress me, like California raisins depress me. The song from Reading Rainbow depresses me every time I hear it.
What's so bad about California raisins?
I don't know, look at them. It's like a time, and it's like the whole nation was like swept up by these things, these ridiculous little things that you got at like McDonald's or whatever. And now you can find them in vintage stores and comic book stores.
Sealed under glass.
Yeah. It's depressing little things. I mean, it's sort of like it's like consumerism at its height in the 90s and 80s and 90s of like, it's like the whole country was swept up by California raisins.
Yeah, do people ever remember what the point of all of that advertising was?
I don't know.
Eat more raisins?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. It was like California raisins were, it was such a marketing thing, just like, it was a media, like the marketing, it was just marketing. Like, who would like those and if they were just there?
Yeah, they seemed much more appealing when they were in a little red box.
Yeah, yeah.
You're working on some documentaries for a website?
Yeah, it's a new media company out of Tulsa called This Land Press, and it's sort of like it's print. There's a magazine that comes out twice a month, and then there's the website that is there's like a documentary aspect to it, and then there's also an audio documentary aspect to it, and then also the print and images and stuff. So I'm, along with my partner Matt Leach, we are both making these. We make basically short documentaries, some narrative, but mainly documentaries just about sort of people in Tulsa and stuff, and whatever really subjects we want to get into. But yeah, it's just been really interesting work. But it's also like, one thing that's been great about it is you hear all these stories, like Altman and all these guys, like they spent so much time in TV, like being able to like use, like shoot and tell stories and stuff, that it was a lot of practice for them. And so I've been really excited just because like, you never, making feature films, you never get a chance to practice that much. I make a lot of music videos that you can find on YouTube or whatever, but like, I always tried to do music videos just so I could stay in practice. But with this job, I've been able to work constantly, around the clock. So it's a lot of practice, and it's been pretty great. And I can't wait to make another feature after shooting so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're working on your chops.
Yeah.
So after having two celebrated feature films, are you thinking about the next one?
Yeah, I'm writing a script right now that has to do with a young man who goes back home. Well, he's been adopted by a white family in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he grew up not knowing his family back home. And so, but after his parents die, they were older. After his parents die, he decides to go home, and he decides to find out who his family was. Then he finds out he has this huge like native family in Okemah, Oklahoma, home of Woody Guthrie, And so he decides to go visit them and get to know them. And it's just sort of about the culture clash and also the similarities with himself that he finds. And it has to do with his grandma, who's actually, at the time that he visits, dying like that. Like, she's sort of on her deathbed. And so it's a comedy drama. Here, I'll show you guys some. I might have to buy that.
Have you ever seen that?
No. It's awesome.
Wow.
I know that guy. You know, I took Barking Water to the Venice Film Festival in Italy, and it got a standing ovation there. They play really well in Canada, like Toronto. People really like the films. I think they're playing on Maori television, some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like an Aboriginal television station they're playing on. They played at the Sydney Opera House and did really well. I think I've had films play in Tokyo, I think, yeah. New Zealand, Australia, yeah, it's been cool, you know, like they get received well everywhere. I don't know exactly how available they are, if they're probably not in stores, but my friend though was in what was that called, Iraqi Freedom or whatever, or something, or thereafter, one of the Iraq War, and right. She was over there, and she was a guard in the prison, and in one of the prisons or something, and she sent me a picture in the email because it was like, I guess they call them Haji shops. They're like these little shops, and sometimes there's like DVDs and bootleg DVDs and stuff.
All over the place.
Yeah, and there was a copy of Four Sheets to the Wind in one of, yeah. There's an Oklahoma slang that people say that's like, it's especially like northern tribes in Oklahoma say keen. That's like, that's good, it's like, that's keen, but they use it as like, it's like slang, like keen, oh, keen, you know. And there's a part in the movie where the nephew at the diner scene goes, he's like, he says something, and he's like, keen, and he like gives the guy knuckles. Well, in Italy, they translated it to fantastico. So it was like, that was one thing in Italy, they didn't laugh a lot, because there was like, the humor is very subtle, it's Indian humor, it's very subtle. It just didn't translate well. So they were more into the drama of it, you know?
Sure.
It was like a silent screening, and I was really nervous that no one liked it. But then they gave me a standing ovation at the end, and people were like crying and stuff, and so.
Well, parts of that film are really funny, actually.
Yeah.
Now, was that the
I mean, you watch it with you watch the film with an Indian audience, and you think it's like Dumb and Dumber or something. I mean, people are laughing at every subtlety, and there's just so many little jokes in there that I think Indian audiences get really well, you know?
Yeah. You've really stopped buying books then?
No, I just bought an iPad, so I bought a bunch of books on it.
Do you
I still read books.
Do you like reading on it?
Yeah.
I haven't quite gotten used to it yet.
I wrote an article for this once. Giant Robot.
You wrote an article for Giant Robot?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was their, they have a series called The Perfect Day or something, A Perfect Day, and it's like you talk about what your perfect day is and then take photos and then they put it in the magazine.
Wow. Not this issue.
No. An old one.
Wow. How did you hear about that?
I have a friend that works for them and asked me to do it once I started making films, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I like the theme of this issue is Wreck Age. Yeah. The lead actor, is he an actor in Barking Water?
Yeah, he's been in some stuff before. He's mainly an artist. He's mainly just an artist, photographer, painter, activist. He was a stuntman for a while. He did a couple different parts here and there, and yeah, he still acts. He just sort of does everything. He's kind of like a Renaissance man, I guess, you know.
Yeah, I asked because it's not clear with him.
Yeah.
You did a great job of making him look like he was dying
throughout
that film.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
God, I'm glad we went. And Heard some of those Indian songs in forever.
They really sounded good, didn't they?
I heard my grandma used to sing this one song. I thought it was the most beautiful song. Translates, now we have been praying, now we are going to dismiss. Give us your peace and dismiss us. This land we leave when we arrive at your place. Rest we want. She used to sing that song while she was doing the dishes.
Sure, yeah, I've had people come up to me after screenings, because he's a really popular guy in Indian country. I've had people come to the screenings and just say, is Richard okay? Is he doing okay? Like, yeah, he's fine. It's makeup. But we did it with makeup and digital effects, like color correction, where we would like suck out the color of his face and just sort of track his face no matter where we were at. And as the movie progressed, we made it look worse. So.
Well, this has been great. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming down
Thank
the
you.
campus.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
Keen.
Keen. Fantastico. You know, the funny works are from Oklahoma too.
Really?
Yeah.
I always associate them with Minneapolis.
No, they're from Oklahoma. They still live in Oklahoma City.
Really? I love hearing that guy talk about making a living as a rock musician.
Yeah.
I mean, he just has such a great time doing it.
Yeah, he does. And you can go to shows in Norman, Oklahoma City, and sometimes Tulsa, and he'll be there, like just checking it out, like local musicians and stuff.
Yeah. So he's got he's retained the man on the street ability in his hometown.
Yeah, for sure.